with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Commands, talk today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on another magnificent Monday's edition of Talk Today, as we invite you to be a part of all that is good. If it's on Radio Cayman, it has to be the best. So as we strive for greatness, hopefully we draw alongside to make it that much better. And what better way to start off with our friends over at the Family Resource Center, in particular, Ms. Renee Ebanks. Hey, you got to tune in. You want to see what good hair is like. You want to see what intellect, insight, enthusiasm, commitment, dedication that is exhibited in our civil servants. Well, join us here for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And thanks to you for your prayers, your support, your counsel, sometimes your correction, but certainly the nurturing, loving, safe environment you've created for us. And let's each do the same for each other, for all. We're very grateful for this continued partnership with the Family Resource Center and all of our government agencies as we make our community stronger. The program facilitator, Ms. Renee Banks. I hopefully say this as respectfully as it sounds in my mind. But you guys do a phenomenal job. The sacrifice that you on a daily basis sort of endure. But the loving, enthusiastic way that you reach out to the community, it behooves us to be cognizant that we can do a lot, even if we only think it's a little. Mm-hmm. It matters to somebody.
I agree 100% on that. Like, just because it might seem small to someone else, it could be one of the biggest things to this other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I simply, and I'm not trying to talk out of school, hopefully not, but sometimes, today for instance, just reach out to somebody. I said, hey, what's up? And just I asked it a little bit differently, but just a quick question, knowing on their end that I was going to put aside what I would do, try to listen like I would normally. May not understand, may not have any insightful words or any kind of counsel, wisdom, or even anything to help, but to listen. Mm-hmm. And for that, I timed it. It was 12 minutes and 38 seconds. Yeah. And, he said, you're timing this, right? I said, yeah. How do you know? He said, because that's you. And just to let a man sometimes just to ramble. No offense to my sisters, women ramble a lot. They like to chat. Right? Men, we grunt, or say anything. Mm-hmm. And he chatted, and I said, you just talk constantly, continually for 12 minutes and 38 seconds. And you said nothing, but you said everything. Because somebody was just listening, right? And it wasn't, anything to do with family or finances or, relations. It was just, this thing is bugging me, right? And I think I can imagine what you guys do in that capacity, but you also act, not just listen.
Yeah. I'm glad that you pointed that out, because we did a mental health first aid training, just like as a refresher for us. And one of the key components of, kind of like addressing someone who's talking about mental health issues or like, disclosing some information of them having a hard time is active listening and communicating, and also kind of reassuring like your body language and everything is open or very conducive to that type of information. And I think sometimes we get caught up because, I'm not a professional, I don't have the time to listen to this right now, and that like we're on this like go, 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 go. There's like this hustle
Yeah,
culture
yeah,
type of
yeah.
mentality, but it's really important for us to, slow down, listen to other people, because you don't know how beneficial that could be in that moment for them. You can actually save a life that way.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. In this case, I mean, it wasn't that, but sometimes you just need, whether you want to call it rant, rave, vent, whatever, but you just need somebody that you can rely on, that you may feel that you can trust. And it's nothing significant. You're not solving the world's problems. You're not talking the state secrets. You just got this thing that is just, gnawing at your craw, and you just need to get it off your mind, right?
Yeah.
And Mirabelle Lacuna, a couple of weeks back, Fridays ago, who were a guest, and she talked about the curious listener. I don't know if it's the same. I look at the active listener you shared, and that's very taxing and tiring.
Yeah.
To engage in somebody talking, you're listening, and then wait a minute, you say that, but what does that mean? When you leave, you're consumed. Sometimes you're almost completely exhausted. But it makes a difference, right?
It does. And I think that goes back to, in this profession where we listen for a living and act accordingly. I think it's so important, and this goes for everyone as well. It is so crucial that you take care of yourself at the end of any interaction, like, just taking that energy for you and just resting and, recuperating, because you want to be able to help people to the best of your ability, but you can't do that if you're not at your best.
You know what? Sometimes, and I'm beginning to get more comfortable with sharing little bits and pieces about how my day unfolds, right?
Yeah.
And I was referencing that to sort of talk and lead into our discussion with parenting, like as we're going to talk about. But I was driving back into the studio. One of my colleagues called, and I had the radio on, the stereo system, the music, whatever it's called. It was up loud, and I was enjoying. But just to your point, I didn't realize that's why I was doing it or what I was doing. But I had this conversation. Hey, dude, catch you tomorrow. I got to get back to work, I'm not like you with all the money, retired, and you can go fishing. No, that's good. He works hard. But I need to get back into my space. And I turned it up loudly. I love music. I don't think I can sing. My brothers, say you can't carry a tune in a basket. But hey, I try. And you're regrouping, you're sort of renewing your energy, you're getting grounded again. And I'm driving back in and I'm booming, and this has not been there yet. And people see it and they think, he needs some medicine.
No, not at all. Like, music is so powerful, and it helps you to kind of just forget about what you're going through in the moment, and just kind of like that release for you. But it also, like, you move with it, and movement is so important to our mental health. Movement is so important to our health in general, because a lot of times most of us have had a traumatic experience in our life, and that tends to be or stay within our bodies. And movement is one of the ways to release that feeling.
You don't realize it. I guess that's why too I used to enjoy going in the sea. The water, just undulation of the water on you, feeling it. You don't need to be swimming. You can just be staying there, and the water just moves against you. But then that I call it the sweet taste of the salt. It just does something for you, right?
Oh, for sure.
And as you share that, I think as parents in particular, we don't understand the importance of listening to our children, to giving them their space, their time, to let them, be. But also, how do we then make sure that what we're doing for them and with them is better in the end for all of us? Someone told me yesterday, adulting is hard.
Adulting is hard. Being a child is hard too, though. I think life is just hard in general at times.
Them politicians, I just kidding. No, but it is, right? But it's worth it. A good friend, I feel so bad before he left, just so much going on. We didn't get a chance to, the first sweet treats, we never got a chance to chat, but just because life is so busy, right? But he would always say, people talk about, good day, missing one. He said, well, you think there's a bad day, try missing one, end of the day above ground, maybe good is one way people put it, but if you think today's a bad day, you try missing one day. That's even worse, right? And you got to give thanks.
You got to give thanks, and that's one thing that you can always do each and every day to churn your mental health. Like, if you're going through, I call them dips, when you're going through depressive states or feeling anxious, because we all go through those states. That's nothing to be ashamed of. That's nothing that is, only one person or only a few people go through that. And we all go through our hard times, right? So during your dip days, one thing that can really, ground you and really get you back on a higher level is practicing gratitude. And for me personally, I have encompassed that in my daily practice where I write 5 things down each day that I'm grateful for and why.
Can I ask then?
Yeah.
It's an exercise I probably shared with people before because I stumbled upon it, I don't know, I would say more than 20 years, but that make me sound old. So in the past, in the recent past, I still can remember.
Recent.
Hey, I know who your mom is. Where we were asked as part of this sort of, and these are working colleagues, so it's part of, I guess, maybe today they would call it team building or interpersonal skills development, whatever it's called, right?
Yeah.
But list 2, 3, 5, 10 things about your coworker that you like, list equal number about, that you don't like, or the job, whichever. And all of us were able to almost constantly be writing, I only want 10, not 1,000. Oh, this is 997, of the bad things. But the good things we were struggling with.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
And the instructor said, try this with your spouse when you go home. And it's the same thing. Spouse to you, you to the spouse. We find it easier to complain, to find the negative, to enumerate the negative. But the positive things, we're struggling.
Yeah. So I have 2 things to add to that, right?
All right.
When you talk about being more geared towards negativity, we actually have this mental process within our brains that's called negativity bias. So we naturally as human beings gravitate towards negativity.
All of us?
Most of us. Like, not all of us, but like we can find negative things in most situations, right?
Okay.
And it depends on what you do with it. Is either you will stay with the negative and then go down that rabbit hole, or you kind of counteract that, right? Yeah. But research has found that, most of us do have this negativity bias where it's easier to find all the negative things and very hard to find the positive things.
Okay. I wanted to ask maybe in that sense, and as people listening, perhaps always believe you can take something and apply it to yourself, improve who you are. It'll be nice to make that person better, that spouse, that child, that coworker, that boss, whichever. I just wish I could. But I find that if the one person, the one thing that you can control most, when you look in the mirror, as broken as that mirror may be, as, much of, sort of a glass cleaner you could put on to make it shine brighter, fix that person in the mirror.
Yeah, and that's why parenting is so important. People a lot of times come to us and say, I want my child to do this, I want my child to be better, I want my child to behave more. But your child really is a reflection of you in some cases, because you're modeling certain behaviors that you probably are not aware of yourself, but your child's picking up on it.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Someone said, your child is not embarrassing you. You're just repeating things that you shouldn't say in the first place.
And a lot of times, too, children come about to kind of challenge parents, give parents that lesson, what do I need to work on for myself in order to be a better parent to this child?
All right, when we come back from the break, could we ask a couple of things? I want to pick up on maybe 2 things you said, if I keep my train of thought.
Yeah.
But also talk about the parenting styles and the other things you want to share with us. I believe all of us, but especially adults and parents in particular, we want to be the very, very best that we can be. I honestly believe that. And we probably get frustrated at our lack of action or lack of effectiveness, perhaps at our children, shortcomings, whatever it is, right? But there are tools that we can improve. I mean, you go to the gym and the coach shows you how to do that particular exercise properly. You get more out of it, right? But anyway, maybe we can chat about that. Maybe I'll ask you a couple of things. Well, the wonderful company, Miss Renee Ebanks. The phone lines are open. You know that lady who always sits behind the desk doing all the good stuff to make the work? Susan P. Well, she's right there. So she'll answer your calls if you call. If you just want to live and learn, well, that's okay. If you want to laugh and love, well, even better. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you aware of the performance of your pension plan? The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan provides quarterly fund fact sheets for our members to stay informed with the plan's performance. For the year ended August 31st, various life cycle funds provided returns between 9.2% and 16.5%, and our all-in expense ratio is currently the lowest it's ever been, a record low at 0.72%. Visit chamberpension.ky to review our fund fact sheets. You can see the performance as far back as 10 years. Remember that pensions are a longer-term investment strategy. Focus on the long term rather than the short-term returns. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan continues to perform for you.
Speak up at the polls this general election, April 14th, 2021.
Do the right thing. Exercise your democratic right and vote. A public service announcement from your #1 community station, Radio Cayman.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're part of our discussion, maybe call a friend. This is a Monday and this may be the thing that they need to hear. Sometimes, you know what, you just have to be in the space. Well, I'm glad that we have this continuing partnership with the Family Resource Center, that one of their wonderful team members, Ms. Renee Banks, their program facilitator, is our guest today. And you and all your colleagues, as you come in, I hope you feel, not just welcome and a warm reception, but that you feel this platform is a way for us to empower, improve, and somehow encourage, our parents in particular, our families, and our communities. Yeah. If I could ask, well, maybe before I ask what I was going to ask, you were sharing just during a break about tools and the weights and the thing. And it's always good to have, what is the little takeaways, little things that we can do, because every time that you can improve who you are and you can make you better, hey, who knows, that may inspire somebody else, it might help them too. But are there tools we can do? Because life is hard.
Yeah, so the tool specifically that I was talking to you about during the break is called 5-1. So any one negative thought, and because we were talking about, negativity and bias and those being really heavy, with one negative thought that you have, counteract that, or say 5 positive things that can kind of defeat that one negative thought. Just because negativity has such a heavy weight on us, we have to counteract with at least 5 positive statements. So you can use that for your own personal development, which is crucial, as well as with parents. You can also say to your kid, like, you might be really upset that your kid has done something, but if you just look at that one negative act and you look at the 5 positive things that your child has done that day, you can probably, okay, that kind of alleviates that pent up anger towards them too, right? And it's so important for parents to praise their children doing good, because if you're only giving them attention for the negative things, kids just want attention no matter what it is, right? So if you give attention to the negative things, they're going to do more negative things. But if you give attention to the positive things, they're going to do more of that as well. Kids just want recognition.
A parent said to me, now, I don't remember the context, and I thought maybe it would be important, but I remember what was shared. Many of us would say to our child, oh, I'm so proud of you. But apparently we should say, you make us so proud. It's the same thing, but does it matter, or is it?
So it's good to say to your child, I'm so proud of you, but it's also important for your child to be proud of themselves, right? To elicit that eternal motivation, right? Okay. So you can say, I'm so proud of you, and I hope you're proud of yourself as well. Okay. Right? So when you turn it that way, because a lot of times kids just want to please their parents, right? But children will grow out that phase, and that can in itself turn into something negative. That could turn into perfectionism. That could turn into, I need to do things just to get the approval of other people, external validation. Whereas you want to raise healthy, confident children, And so using those words, for example, I am so proud of you. I hope you're proud of yourself as well for doing that. You kind of turn it in on them.
Yeah.
Like, self-fulfillment.
It was their effort to achieve this thing. And so, you need to be proud of that because, hey, I feel good as a parent, but wow, look at what you did. You did all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, because external validation is not a guarantee in any situation or every situation. And children who only get external validation will have a difficult time doing things because of them.
And we see it manifest maybe in the children, but we can see it evident in adults as well. Low self-esteem and the like. And I don't want the word they become victims, or fall prey, but we can see them sometimes being subjected to circumstances where you think, well, she's a big girl, she should know better than that, but it happens, right?
Yeah.
This negativity bias that you reference, if I could ask about that, the notion that we focus on that so much. I had a thought process, but maybe it slipped me now, but when we see that, there are some of us who are positive. We avoid or try hard to avoid negative attitudes, behavior. People that we say are toxic and negative because the Debbie Downers or whatever the phrase is these days, right? And we go about life in a way of, for me, it's what the scripture says, call those things that aren't as if they were. So you're speaking it into being, you're being positive, you're not foolishly blind to the obvious, but you're very much cognizant that this too shall pass. Let me grasp and try to move forward. The people who do that may potentially be perceived by others like, well, they're just carefree. They don't have there's nothing about them. I'm just jolly go lucky or whatever it is. Is there a risk of that happy appearing, smiling, being a person who is always positive, full of energy and bubbly and,
There is a downfall to that too, to what I've been reading lately and stuff. Like, being happy. My cousin sent me this quote the other day, and it's like, all sunshine, which is happiness, creates deserts.
All sunshine.
Yeah. So you're going to have your negative days. Like, that is a guarantee. This is human life. We, through different acts, because not everyone understands us, we're going to have those experiences that are negative. But those things make us stronger, more resilient towards the end as well. Sometimes people who just come off very positive all the time. I'm not saying that being positive is a bad thing, of course. No. But sometimes it makes it harder for others to reach out to you. It might make you seem a little impersonable. But but sometimes some people need that positivity, so they'll come to you too. So it's a double-edged sword. But at the same time too, when you say this too shall pass, which is a great thing, what we call cool thought, that's a great cool thought. But at the same time too,
is that a technical term? Cool. That's a cool thought. Is it technical?
So we call at FRC we call positive thoughts, cool thoughts, negative thoughts, hard thoughts. Okay. So it's a good cool thought to have, but at the end of the day too, like, it's important not to dismiss others because of their negativity at the time. It's important to set boundaries on how much you can hear in terms of that negativity. But at the same time too, like, it's important to connect with human beings. It's important to listen to others, because at the end of the day, that's why we are social beings. At the end of the day, we need each other. No matter what anyone says, we need each other. We need to listen to each other. Sometimes we need positivity, which is great. But before you say, don't worry, get over it, things like that, make sure you connect with that person. It's like, you know what? That is rough. I'm sorry that has happened to you. How can I help you? Or like, and then you can give your cool thought afterwards, right?
I'll call you for it. What's the cool thought today?
So that is a tool that we also give our parents too. Before you correct a behavior that your child has done, make sure you connect with your child. So understanding, I heard that this happened in school today. Please tell me. Like, I want to hear your side of it. Tell me what's going on.
It's interesting, right? We see our friends, we know parents who have an amazing connection with their children. From the time they were very young, they could talk about anything. They constantly talk about everything. And then there's some parents that, how's your day? Okay. So what are you doing today? And that's the extent of the conversation. Right? How do you go from that latter experience to one where the child and you are just chatting about everything, and from time they learn to talk to, when the child becomes a grandparent, you guys are just that one. I mean, is that...
So that whole connective piece, right? Being like connected to your child, ask them, what happened in this situation? I want to hear from you. Like that sets the standards, being open, not the first thing that's coming out of your mouth. Oh, you can get grounded. Oh, 2 weeks away from your television or whatever, not right. That doesn't allow a child to actually want to talk to you because mom and dad are just going to punish me at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. Expectation and
expectations and things like that.
Okay.
Like you want to, and that starts from a very young age. And then not saying that you can't foster those relationships when you get older, but it's really important to actually say, I want to hear from you. Your point is of value to me. I am your parent. I really care and love you. I just want to hear this perspective.
Okay. So those dips that you talked about, because many of us, and I careful as this, but I think of the public profile, the parent who, whatever the job is now coming home and had a taxing day, whatever that is, right? But wants to be positive, energetic. Or the person for whom the work is, forward-facing, publicly engaged. If you having that low dip in your day, and then you need to come on, and you got to be on stage, in a sense. How do you navigate that so that you're not projecting, you're not internalizing, and then you're not also, giving people more than their fair share of your guilt or whatever it is that you're feeling?
So this is where the self-awareness and self-regulation is so important. So parents, you do have permission to set boundaries with your kids too. It's important to say, like, if you're actually not really feeling great in that moment, I know it's really hard, but take it 5 minutes for yourself and tell your child, I need 5 minutes for myself. I just need to take a shower or something, and then I'll come back and we can interact. Actually telling that to your children is so impactful because you're teaching your children about boundaries so they can set boundaries for themselves when they get older, as well as showing them that it's okay to take care of yourself.
So doing that thing that must be healthy, so taking a shower, if you are able to go to the beach, take a swim, or wherever you can swim, or maybe you'll go exercise or something.
For you.
Yeah, that helps you, but also convey to the child, this is what I'm going to do, this is why I'm going to do it. A friend, she refers to as, decompressing. I just, I've had a zillion demands on my work day for every client. I just need to decompress, all right? But some of us then will probably do something, maybe pour a drink, maybe, I think it's just as equal to bad, sit in front of the TV and just watch it and pop it.
So you go numb and stuff like that. There has to be boundaries around it too. Again, when you are a parent, there's only so much time you have for yourself, but making that time very efficient. Not saying that drinking is a bad thing, but how much do you drink? How often do you do it? And is it helpful to your behavior when you're parenting? Or what other healthy strategies could I use instead? Because at the end of the day, if you drink and that's your way of coping and you do that daily, that can have an effect on how you parent, how your health, your physical health, and as well as your mental health. And it affects your motivation to do anything with your child. And it breaks that bond with your child.
With his permission, right? And I know you said it before. I know he doesn't have an issue. He said, a friend had said, he used to do that. He would come home some days, he would quickly realize that he was inconsistent and get home. So maybe it's 6, 7, 8, 9. That's just the demands of the job. But then if it's 3, 4, 5 o'clock that you get home, the scotch, the beer, the wine, whatever the alcoholic libation of choice, a little bit, a lot, whichever. Then he decided one day, the little child is watching. So let me mix a tea. Let me blend up a smoothie. Let me huck a coconut. Still getting something nourishing, but something more healthy and helpful. And stepping away from, the alcoholic beverage to something better. And, sit by the pool or, wherever it is. So even if you're going to have that liquid nourishment, let it be a better choice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the boss, as you look over your left shoulder, is right there in a beam in blue. It's not cerulean blue, is it? No, I don't know. Well, when we come back, maybe we can chat more and you can share with us. Hey, if I can be better today, can you imagine what I'd be like tomorrow? All right. Give us a shout if you want to be a part of our discussion. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. If you're listening and you don't want to call, well, you can message me if you have the number. If not, Susan will answer. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Cayman Islands Agriculture Society is pleased to announce the end of February festivities. Kids Night Out, Parents Night Off at the Pavilion on Friday, February 26th from 6 until 10 p.m. Only $15 per child, including refreshments and activities. And on Saturday, February 27th, see the return of the new Market at the Pavilion from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Local food, crafts, meats, produce, clothing, live music, activities for the kids, a chance to win a cow for only $25 a ticket, gate prices, and much, much more. Entry only $2. Children under 13 are free. Taking all of the fun of the annual Cayman Islands Agriculture Show, but a wee bit smaller, at the Stacy Watler Pavilion in Lower Valley. Visit the newly launched website www.345agriculture.com to RSVP for our event.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Commencement at the University College of the Cayman Islands is being moved to spring, in line with more traditional practices in other countries. The spring date will allow graduating students to be a part of the university's celebration of their accomplishments. UCCI's 2021 commencement ceremony will be on Saturday, the 24th of April 2021, 7:30 p.m. at Sir Vassal Johnson Hall. Application deadline for graduating students to apply for graduation will be Friday, the 12th of March 2021. For all the information on Commencement 2021 and to access the graduation form, you can visit www.ucci.edu.ky/graduation.
But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you for joining us as Miss Susan makes the sound even better. Well, we hope you're enjoying the conversation. I know I'm learning a lot from Miss Renee Banks, the program facilitator over at the Family Resource Center. And I think one of my sisters in particular, so you have to be an active parent. You can't be a lazy parent. I'm glad she shared that with me long before God blessed me with children, because it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And hopefully one day you do your children proud as they have for you. But parenting styles, I got one particular hairstyle, but maybe there are more than one parenting style. Share with us as best as we can understand.
So what your sister said about being an active parent, she's right on the money with that. You have to be an active parent. You can't expect others to raise your children or children to raise themselves. So you can't expect the school to always fix everything, right? It's you're the parent at the end of the day. So you have to advocate for your child. So there are different parenting styles. So we call them in simpler terms at Family Resource Center. So the first one is the putty, like the silly putty, or in research base is called laissez-faire, right? So that is the one where the parent is not active, right?
Hands-off kind of approach.
Hands-off, very passive. I want to be my child's friend. My child will sort this out. So when you have a parent who has those characteristics, how does the child respond to that? I got to do what I want to do. No boundaries, no rules. I make the rules here. And when you have that type of parenting, what happens a lot of times, children become deviant. So, not all, but some children become deviant and kind of like have a hard time listening to other authority figures, you know, teachers and police officers, and just like
respect for authority.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that type of parenting can affect a children's place in society, right? Because when you act like that, it's gonna be hard for you to obtain employment or keep that job. And sometimes, a lot of times too, what we see that type of parenting can potentially lead children as they grow older into the prison system. Right. So parenting is such a crucial factor for how individuals flourish or function in society, and whether they become, you know, contributing healthy members of society or unhealthy members of society.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one style of parenting. Another style is the complete opposite on the other side of the spectrum, which we call block parent. So that's a parent who's so rigid, who has extreme boundaries, that typical strict parent, right? Controlling parent. Okay. So sometimes what parents think of children reacting to that type of parenting style is, oh, my child respects me. No, they actually fear you.
Fear and respect are not the same.
They're not the same. Right? And I think sometimes we forget that they're not the same. In order to respect me, you have to have some sort of fear for me. That's not true. I can respect you and feel very comfortable sharing with you what I'm feeling, but I respect you enough not to cross your boundaries. That's not fair. Okay. That's respect, right? So when you have that type of parent, that block parent who's very strict, you have children not wanting to speak to their parent. You have children starting to act out, especially in their teenage years. Oh, I'm not allowed past 7 o'clock, or I'm not allowed to go to movies in their teenage years. I gotta sneak out the house.
Let me test that.
let me test that. But at the end of the day, you're just teaching your child to be sneaky. Not all the time, but sometimes children grow up to resent their parents who don't have that capacity to be more lenient.
Okay.
Right? So those are two extremes. Now, the middle ground of those two, because not saying that any of those two, like those two can have good qualities, but it's a good balance of each. So we call that the backbone. We call that one in the middle, because that parent is boundaried but able to compromise, has limits but able to talk to that child, right? Okay. And so you want your child to know boundaries, that what they can not cross, but at the same time let them know, like, okay, I hear your point. Let's see if we can work on a compromise that meets both of our needs.
Make them understand why you have this boundary, why this thing is this way, so that if they don't, at least at that point in time, understand it, they can have a semblance of appreciation. Well, the reason why I want you home at this hour is because, you know, we're going fishing in the morning at 3 o'clock. I don't want you to be groggy. You know, I need you to help, whatever it is, explain, and so that the child can have today's language of buy-in, so to speak. Okay.
True.
Okay.
And also at the same time too, children are not going to fully understand your reasonings at a particular age, but the older they get, the more they realize, Daddy, you were right about this part though. Like, I understand.
Sorry,
from your
can you repeat that again? Daddy, you're right. Okay. No, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah, like you want your child to, at the end of the day, you want your child to be a functioning adult. They're not going to be children forever. So you have to start incorporating like compromising, problem solving, setting boundaries. You have to start from a young age, because they're going to leave you one day. They're going to leave your house one day. I know you touch your heart right there. I know.
Oh, it's going to happen. Huh? It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, even though you might not like it or not. But you want to make sure that you have prepared your child to be their best when you're not around.
Yeah.
They still need you at some points, but you want your child to feel like they that they can have, they are equipped to handle this.
And I think that's probably, you know, all jokes aside, that's what a parent wants, to know the child. And at the end of the day, whether they're living next door to you or whether they're a continent away. The child is safe, productive. The child is sensible and sound and grounded and can do that thing.
Healthy and mentally, physically, healthy all around.
Yeah, man. It's amazing. Being a parent, probably the greatest joy, the greatest blessing, probably the greatest sense of, fear that you are fearful of whatever. But man, the grandchildren will come along one day, maybe not, maybe just the dogs, I don't know. You just do the right thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
This is why I am glad for this partnership. Because we can question certain things, we can test certain, philosophies. We can recognize the truth and that our parents and their parents sort of had. And I think the cultural nuances, but also the cultural appreciation of, where we are can help us.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. I see the hour is drawing nigh, but what more would you like to share with our listeners?
Well, to learn more about these parenting styles and other parenting tools, you can give us a call at 949-0006 or email us at frc@gov.ky or visit our website at www.frc.gov.ky. And we provide individual services, we provide groups that will be personalized for each family that comes in.
Personalized, wow. We have a great society. We have a wonderful community of people. I'm told it's 144 nationalities. Somebody say 144 and a quarter, but I'm not quite sure. It's just a beautiful place. But I think all of us have to recognize that if we have a healthy respect for ourselves, we may have a healthy respect for others. If we appreciate where we are, what we are, who we are, what we can contribute, maybe not just be willing to take, but to give. I know some people say, oh, that's a little bit too... what is that word, sensitive, but life is only better when people work together, many hands, they say make light work, but how I see it, can you imagine, man, if you sit by a table and everybody brought a dish and you could share in that meal? Wow, especially if a lot of chocolate, even better. But that's the joys and the pleasures of life, right? All right, one quick last question, if I may ask. We see parenting and we watch the first time parent, a parent who's had 1, 2, 3, 4 children later on. Then we see parenting going through as the parent gets more sort of mature experience, and then you age, then your child equally goes along. Is it that phase and the approach to parenting will change relative to you changing, you maturing?
Well, I think most parents do that now. Most parents that are aware that their child is changing and self-aware that, I can't treat my child the same as they were. So that typically happens. But you want that to happen too. You want that. You can't treat a 13-year-old like you would have treated that person at 6 years old. Like, that doesn't work. Like, you want parents to be like that. And I think it's really important that parents are not so quote unquote stuck in their ways, but also, adaptable. Like, yeah, you may be the parent, but you're still a human being. And it's okay to change because at the end of the day, if that change can foster more positivity, why not?
Yeah, there's a joke that comes to mind, but I'll leave that alone. A comedian once talked about, the married couple coming in and announcing to their parents that they're having a child. It's an admission that they were. We'll leave it at that. It's just, I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to have that relationship with your children, and as you both mature, because the parent, you mature as a person, as you both gain greater experience about what it is to be a parent. Your child grows to have a greater love and a respect for you, but you equally for the child as well. And it's not just with pride that you look at them for their accomplishments, but hopefully, as you shared, that they'll take pride in themselves. They'll be proud of who they are and have that self-respect. But thank you very much for spending.
Thank you for having me.
All right, looking forward to having you and your team in the studio again. And anything we can do to help, let us know.
Will do.
All right, well, we're going to pause and take a break, hit the news headlines when we come back. Well, Miss Katina Anglin will join us. We got a lot of things to talk about. So stay tuned for Respite Hour. For Talk Today. Sorry.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have in Northern Ireland.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government is inviting micro and small business owners to apply to its residential business incubator program. The business incubator, which will officially open on March 24th, will host 20 micro and small business owners who do not currently have a workspace from which to operate. It will be free of charge to participants for a period of up to 2 years at the Center for Business Development in Baytown Plaza. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, hundreds of thousands of protesters of Myanmar in one of the largest demonstrations yet against the country's military coup. Businesses closed as employees joined a general strike, despite a military statement that said protesters were risking their lives by turning out. The statement prompted fears the protesters could turn violent, but they remained peaceful throughout today. Myanmar has seen weeks of protest following the coup on February 1st. And the mayor of Houston has called for the state of Texas to pay the huge electricity bills racked up by residents due to the freezing weather. Sylvester Turner told CBS News it was not the fault of residents that the system could not cope. Some residents reported bills of up to $16,000. That's £11,500 for just a few days of usage as temperatures hit 30 degrees Fahrenheit last week. At least 70 people died as the freeze swept several southern U.S. states. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
This is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Are you ready? Here we go. Set. I feel like running, skip it, run it. Feel like skip it.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning. I will. So send me, Lord. I will go.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thank you so much for joining us. And I think education and knowledge is empowering. I think when you are positioned to learn, sometimes you find the laughter is that much better. The joy is so much sweeter when there's love. And when you're able to, find the good things in life. Oh, sweet is the fruit of the Spirit. Let's continue. How are you, my lady? How are you?
I am good, Dwayne. How are you today?
I am blessed, without question, without hesitation. But I'm more than that. I am desirous of being of good value.
Amen.
So.
Amen.
There you go.
May God grant you the good desires of your heart and bless the work of your hands.
Amen.
I'm a little bit tongue-tied here today, it seems like. But anyway, I wanted to get around to the blessing first, and I'll get kind of mixed up there. But anyway, God bless you and keep you.
And to you. I like, and I say this with hopefully a level of deference that I think I hear in my head as I formulate the thought, or as a thought is formulated, because I don't think sometimes the words are mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
The desire to do good, the desire to want to contribute, the desire to see this country united in a way that we all appreciate, that too much is given, much is required, but equally, nothing's going to happen unless we deliberately, consciously try to bring about a thing. Hopefully that thing that we want to bring about is a good thing. So if everybody, for instance, got together and did a beach cleanup, and then everybody thereafter ensured that if they went to the beach for an event, birthday party, a barbecue, they just go swim, that they didn't leave the trash, that they took it back with them and properly disposed of it, then that cleanup wouldn't have to occur so soon thereafter. And when it did, there wouldn't be, that much trash as it was the time before. But if we go clean it up, the next one comes behind and mess it up, it gets us nowhere, right? So with that in mind, if we are able to reach out with a loving, kind heart and help each other, despite our differences and differences of opinion, we can find a semblance of coming together, as it were, with a view of strengthening us as a community.
Right. And I taking that example there, we can say that it comes from the old adage of many hands make light work, right? But then we also realize that we are in unity and we are in partnership with the goals that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And we all have our individual roles to play, but we also have a collective role to play as well. As long as we exist here in this society, there we have individual and collective roles to play. Right now, I want to sidestep from that for just a moment. I want to say a special good afternoon to my son, Devon. Today is a great day for him as well. And I just want to give him a really big shout out and just say, hey, Dev, Mom loves you. And I also want to greet the rest of the country in the name of Jesus Christ, our wonderful Lord and Savior. We are only here by His grace and by His mercy. If I can be permitted to just put in a little bit of what the purpose of today's show is about. Actually, the shows leading up until after the election is actually based on education of the electorate and not to do any promotion of any candidates.
Right.
All right.
If I may then, just quickly, maybe a formal and proper introduction. Ms. Katina Anglin, in the organization you represent, because I always get it wrong, even though I read it, but you go ahead.
So this show is brought this afternoon. This show, the Christians Initiative, is brought. Sorry, the Citizens Initiative is brought to you by the Christian Association for Civics and Political Education.
The Christian Association for Civics and Political Education. All
right. Some people choose to view this. And I say choose to, because it's a choice, the way that you view things. You can view things from different angles. But some people say that, to be Christian and to be politically active is impossible, that it is a sin. That's not true. That's not true, because from Genesis, when God created the earth, right, and He created man and woman in His own likeness and in His own image. And at that time, all people were reverent unto God, and He said, go forth, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. Further on in, I think it's verse 28, He says, and to have dominion over all the earth, right? Dominion is authority. It is power. It is rulership, right? Now, taking it a bit further on, and we see where God spoke about His chosen people being the heads and not the tails. And we see when Christ was leaving earth and He says, my power and authority I leave with you. He left it for a reason. He left it for us to use it. Now, if we are the heads and not the tails and to have dominion over the earth, how are we supposed to do this if you're not politically engaged? You have to be politically engaged. You have to be politically aware. That goes on to say, my people perish for the lack of knowledge, is what Christ said, God said. I think it's in Hosea. So there's a responsibility that we have as Christians to be politically aware and to be politically active. Those things does not mean that you're in the street rioting. It means that you seek knowledge, you seek to understand it, because some people get knowledge and they don't do anything with it, you know. And you deploy it. You deploy it wholesomely towards your country, your community, and even within your family, you know. So we have that responsibility as Christians to help to lead the country. I mean, it's kind of pointless to go to the polling booth as a Christian, vote for somebody who you've done no research on, and then go down on your knees and pray to God to give you godly rulership. It's like, well, why weren't you a bit politically aware before you went and voted? You know?
I mean, I see it from, as you share with us, the Christian perspective, but even if we were just extrapolate that even further, from the perspective of being informed, engaged, and actively participating in what is transpiring, you want to know what's going on.
Exactly.
Right? So that you can consciously, deliberately, very judiciously make that informed choice.
Decision. That's right.
But
That's right.
Okay, go ahead. And I wrote down a couple of things. If I can decipher what I wrote as the day goes on, I may ask you about it. But you know what? I should have probably paid attention to penmanship in school. But anyway, we'll see. I'll blame it on that.
As long as you don't push it over to me, ask me what it is. We're okay. We're okay.
I used to have symbols in my version of shorthand, and that was perfect because I understood that, you know.
Yeah.
The triangle meant one thing, the arrow meant one thing, depending on if the arrow was this way. But these are words and letters, and I'm like, is that my shopping list? We'll get there. All right. I'll you know, there's a laughter I've heard recently that it just brings joy to my soul, and I think yours was almost similar. So
happy to be here with
there
you
you
today.
go.
And good afternoon again, Cayman Islands. Can I offer an update on the judicial review?
Would you please,
Mom? Yeah. So, in all of the brouhaha and all of the accusations about, you know, the justice trying to or ordering the judicial review judgment to be withheld and stuff, it's a pile of flutter, to tell you the truth. And, you know, anyone who would suggest that I myself would be withholding or was guilty of withholding information from the public, I think the public itself knows better than that. I made a decision, and I talked it over with the board, and I also sought legal advice about, you know, what should I say and how much should I say regarding the judicial review. And the view from the board was very much in line with the legal advice that I had gotten, and that was say as little as you can for a number of reasons, and that is you are a party in a case that is before the court in a very controversial matter, and in a issue of monumental significance. The last thing you want to do is go on the radio and start discussing this case in any great detail and then wait till an application for strikeout. And so I heeded that advice and refrained from speaking publicly on it, although I did share information with other persons who I depended on for them to present it back to the public and to members of their churches and so on, so that people were still aware of what was happening.
Okay.
As far as the judicial review, what update that I'm able to give to you today without coming to any point of conflict is that the government has asked for more time to get a ministerial, as in Westminster Parliament legislative type of definition, interpretation of the international obligations under which the governor said that it was he was duty bound to impose the CPL, civil partnership law, on the international obligations. And they had asked for that back in December. And they came back just recently and asked for a further extension, as they're still trying to obtain the interpretation of international obligations. I know that it may be a bit wearisome on a lot of people, and that there are a lot of questions like, well, what's happening with it, and oh my God, has it gone dead, and so on, and it hasn't. But what I ultimately, and what this country should be, really seeking for is clarity and truth about the imposition of the CPL as far as the powers were they used properly. And I think it was a good decision to allow them that time, because ultimately what we need to know as a country was the law properly utilized. Put aside whether or not people should have same-sex relationships, so they should be permitted to have them legally and have them recognized. Box that out and put that off to the side. Let's look at this single question. So that is as much of an update as I can give at this time. But
thank you for that too. And I think many times we see where perhaps a board may have been, seen to have acted ultra-vires of the legislation and the directives and what have you. So understanding what is and what isn't gives us a basis for what should be going forward. So thanks to that, I think that doesn't offend any sensibilities. It just allows us to understand that patience is not just a virtue, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Well,
sometimes it's actually legally required too.
You're making bread. If you don't have a little patience and let the bread rise, right, the dough rise, and when you're baking it, if you turn the oven up to a little bit too high a temperature, you're not gonna get what you want any faster. And when you're doing, it'll be in a better either. Right?
That cassava cake gonna get dried out.
Even there you go.
Yeah,
so,
you're not gonna get a good stretch on that. Yeah.
Cassava cake, yeah. That's why I wanted to. All right. All right.
Mango season coming up. I got your mango jelly coming up. I'm going to put that one side for you. I have to check Tim Atuka. I know the one I carried for him last year. Man, he finished that off, I think, in just 2 days.
I'm beginning to discover that there are, one or two other people that I realize don't enjoy mangoes other than fresh off the seed.
Listen, if it not, you got to get it from off your arm too. Honestly speaking, right? You got to get some of that has to come not just from off the seed, but from off the arm.
I can see an indoctrination in the waiting where we shall go in the sea. Be educated how best to enjoy a red mango. But that's another day. All right, let's continue.
Okay, so we can move on with some education. Right?
I'm sorry, my mind is going to that already.
Okay, let me turn to my notes here for the day. I have a public service announcement to make, and that is that there are 2 stipendiary positions available at the Christian Association for Civics and Political Education. One is of administrative capacity, and the other is about website maintenance and content. So persons who are interested in either of these 2 positions should send an email to caymanchristiancivics@gmail.com expressing your interest for information about the post, so that you can decide whether or not that you would like to play this role. And it is stipendiary. There's not a whole lot of work to be done with it. But we look forward to it growing, both the position, the association, and the individuals in the positions.
So the people just reach out if they might be inclined. I mean, as you said, somebody get an extra couple of bucks now.
Yeah, times are pretty hard right now. And for some people, just something to carry them through is sufficient, because you're still trying to balance out a lot of other things as well. Right. So it may be that there's a school student who wants to build their skills as well, and it would be ideal for them. And there's no age restrictions or anything of the sort. So.
Just the competency and the commitment.
Yeah, okay. And we're willing to train as far as necessary for the individual, with the exception of the website maintenance part is not something that
you got to know.
Yeah. And I'd also like to do some shout outs this afternoon to some members of the Christian Association. And I'm going to start with Mr. Berkeley over there in Northside, Mr. Lennox in East End, Mr. George over there in Bordentown, and Miss Bev down here in Georgetown. Miss Laurel. Hi, Miss Laurel. You down there in West Bay. Miss Ashlyn in Honduras. And Miss Annie and Miss Susan in Florida, I know you all are tuned in today. Thank you so much for keeping up with us and for your support and your encouragement, because there are no boundaries in Christ, and water certainly does not impede our ability to support and connect. So God bless you. God bless you all today. It's a great day. Now, Dwayne, I also have 3 websites today that I want to bring to the public's attention that will help them on with civics and politics and the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Because the information that I present and that I have presented in the past has not been some thesis that I have sat and wrote out, you know. I haven't had it checked proof by all the lecturers and all of the law schools and so on. What I did was I undertook research. I found credible websites. I gathered the information. I gave credit to those websites. I shared it with the public, and I encouraged the public to go and do their own research so that they can learn. Truth of the matter is that there was a time when the only way for you to learn was to go sit in a square room at a square desk on a square chair with a square book and a long pencil, and the teacher gave you what you were entitled to learn. Today there is no barrier to learning because of the advent of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So we are always able to do our own research. And I just want to provide some guidance to the public today. And that is, the 3 websites are, first and foremost, the Christian Association for Civics, which is www.christian.ky. Can't forget that one. And then Christians in Politics. So you see, Dwayne, this is not something that I have concocted here in Cayman that, you know, Christians should be involved in politics. This is actually worldwide. And if you do enough research, you'll see that there are websites set up in various countries. There are various organizations all throughout the world in which Christians play their political role, in political and civic role. So you can visit the Christians in Politics website at www.christiansinpolitics.org.uk. www.christiansinpolitics.org.uk. And then the Bible Society, which is www.biblesociety.org.uk. So those are the 3 sites that I would like to send people to today. Give you the information today for you to continue to do your research as a Christian, to get more information about how you operate as a Christian in politics and learn the word.
Ms. Katina Anglin, we do have a caller joining us. As we go through our conversation, and we'd like invite the listener to participate, to be a part of our discussion. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Let's go to the phones, right? Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Green.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to Tina there.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hide your voice. That's the hardest thing for a person to do, is to hide your voice. Just to say it quickly first, because I'm not going to be very long. Just want to say happy birthday to my dear sister-in-law, Marlene Hurlston, my brother and his wife, for birthday. And I just like to say that it is very important. You're talking about politics and the Christian way of life. It's very important, first of all, and I'm very disappointed over the years in the failure of all running for elected office. To not hammer this home something, it's going to be like a long playing record now, is what I'm saying. That we are a British crown colony, own territory, overseas territory, whichever nomenclature you want to attach to it, amounts to the same thing. We are not really our own bosses. We are politically in charge of the island, but do not have really the final say in important matters. And there are certain conventions and principles that Great Britain has signed on to, which makes us party to them also. And we must remember that as long as we remain a British own colony. I see no way of us moving away from that now. especially with us having 140, as you just said, Sterling Green.
Yes, sir.
Different nationalities here. It makes a very big difference. The church has always been a big part of politics here. If we read back in history, many comments, I won't go into them, made by British officials who came here, and others, how important and impactful decisions by the church made on our political agenda, so to speak. Of course, it's much different now with the signing on. We have human rights, and they've said rights in our new constitution, and in the other one, and so forth. On these conventions, we must obey, and we must have them applied. So there are things that will happen in our lives going forward and in our way of life that we knew so many years ago that will not be the same, cannot be the same, and that is the way it's going to be as long as we remain a British Crown colony, British Crown territory. I'll just put it simply this way. Sometimes it's best if you know the answer to a question, or if you're pretty sure of the answer to it, it's best not to even bother to ask the question. Whether you understand what I'm trying to say or not, it's just that is how I see it. I'm a person that believes, I'm a realist, and this is the situation that obtains. We have to make the best of it and still try to apply our principles, Christian principles, to our political life. It's a very, very difficult thing to do in the unique situation that we have. I can't think of anywhere else with 144 nationalities piled into maybe 58,000 acres of land. I don't think that obtains anywhere else on this planet. And as I said, a British Crown overseas territory also. So it is important we keep that in mind as we go forward with political decisions or whatever we want to say or whatever we want to change or try to change or think we can change or dream of changing, and come to a disappointing realization. Have a wonderful afternoon. I thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And Ms. Coutinho, we do have a couple of other callers that's joined the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you today?
Brother Sterling.
Yes, sir. Blessing, sir.
How are thou?
Blessed and highly favored and eternally thankful.
Well, you better be blessed. Miss Katrina, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well, sir. God bless you.
You make me feel bad when you talk about those stretchers. You know what kind of stretcher we talking about, right? Not the one that you, not the one that you got always with, the one that is very hot in his oven.
That must be like a sour cake.
Yeah, I hear that spot.
Yeah. Fire up too high and destroy the stretch.
But yeah, the stretchers, but don't worry, that can last around my area 2 days or 3 days, you know. That can only last a few hours. But I just want to let you know that we are favored and flavorly blessed. This is my version of it. And we want to thank you for all that you are doing and continue to do. And I know that you're a spiritual person, and I just ask you to continue to keep the faith and don't give up, because God is not giving up on us.
Amen.
And we ask you to help your friend, Brother Sterling, but keep him away from the stove and from the chocolates. For me, please.
I can just deliver the stuff to
Yeah.
mango jelly and stuff.
All right, there you go, sir.
There are a lot of Georges in Borden Town, but you got distinction from this one. You got to say your brother in Christ in Lower Valley.
Okay.
And then that'll be better, because I know all the rest of Georges need to get blessed too, but I need some blessing too.
So the shout out today was to my brother in Christ, Mr. George in Lower Valley.
That's right.
And may God bless him abundantly, so that he can become a blessing to all the rest of the Georges in Borden Town.
Amen. Thank you, Miss Katrina. Continue the good work.
Thank you.
I'm listening.
Thank you. Have a wonderful, blessed day, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Katina, we do have another caller. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, my friend. How are you today?
Not bad. Good to hear your guest on the show.
Always.
Good afternoon, sir.
For those who think that Christianity and politics don't go together, I wonder if they could explain what was the role of the king and all of the servants who served the king throughout the Bible.
Yeah, well, good if you want. I mean, maybe I'll start by first asking why is it we've allowed that sort of question in the first place to seep into our parlance, in that here we are appreciating the deception. You know, if people are not in this context, you know, under the guise of a Christian nation, unwilling to acknowledge, you know, from whom so all wisdom flows, all sort of level of angst that we feel now is probably because we've lost sight of the glory that lies ahead.
Yeah. I think your question pushes me straight on to page 2 of my presentation today, and that was about godly administration. And if you look at the books of Judges and 1st and 2nd Kings in particular, you will see that when the leaders of the countries of Israel in particular, and even those in surrounding countries, because there are parts in the Bible where the Egyptian king speaks of the Lord, the Creator. And, he even spoke to Nehemiah about not bringing war. Sorry, to one of the kings that was around at the time of Nehemiah, not bringing war in the name of the Lord God, the Creator of the earth and all that's in it. The Philistines at one time, Abimelech, he also acknowledged the Lord God as the Creator. And so even the surrounding territories where there was godly administration, as the Bible says, the nation rejoiced. And the book of Judges and 1st and 2nd Kings shows you what happened when there was not godly leadership and the people were brought under oppression, and the justice was hard to achieve, and there was just so much tumult for people in the land, irrespective of whether or not they serve God or not. Many of them were subjected to the same type of treatment. That hasn't changed, not from the beginning of time until now. It is still the same way. When people's hearts are towards the Lord, they are then led by God in their leadership. And God is a God of love. He's a provider. He's a good God. He is a father. And the way that administration then flows into a country is one of peace and prosperity, of brotherly love, one to the other. Now, in the absence of godly leadership, we have chaos, we have uncertainty, we have war, we have everything that's unhealthy for our society. As Christians, we need to decide, what do we want our government or governance to look like? What do we want our existence in the country to look like? How do we want it to operate? What do we want our experiences to be? What do we want our school system to be teaching our children? And we're only able to have godly leadership if we as electors are wise, politically aware, and we poll our candidates. We ask them questions that aligns with our views, our godly principles. And then we boldly go in the polling booth and we vote for the Christian candidates who are put there by God. Because I have known of Christian candidates who run for election before and they never got in because the electorate and all of their blindness in the moment voted for the guy who they liked best. Electors have 3 particular voting patterns, and those are voting by familiarity or familial reasons, They're the other ones who research and determine the suitability or unsuitability of a candidate based on their experience and education.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the alignment with personal views. And people will vote for a candidate simply because the candidate shares their personal views. Christians in the past have run for election. They haven't been elected to the House. And then the people, went to church and they went into prayer and they talked about it over lunch and over coffee, and they said, oh, God, give us godly administration. I can only imagine that God said, well, I gave you a candidate. You rejected him, And we see that same very story with Samuel, Saul, and David, in which the people, they chose Saul. Samuel was like, what have I ever done to you?
Mm-hmm.
And God had to console Samuel and remind Samuel that, Samuel, it's not you that they're rejecting, it's me.
Mm.
And he sent Samuel to anoint David as leader. David was God's chosen one. And when you read the history of David and his governmental administration, you see that he set up the treasury, he had his accountants, he had his food ministry, and he had his army, and he had his advisors, and everything that you can think about was set up, and David was the head of it all. Today now we want to make it the same, and we've been told this life for so long, right? All Christians not supposed to be in politics. Politics is a dirty game. Well, geez, some Peter, Jesus Christ came to clean up the mess,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
the caller is sorry, still there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for engaging with us. I get so caught up with the two of you sometimes that I lose. But let us listen to what you have to share.
And my apologies to you as well. I thought that he'd asked the question and then hung up.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I was actually listening to you until Dwayne got worried that I had run away.
No, I was listening to her and I'm thinking, maybe he's still there. Katina is so in now. Yes, but thank you. You're a gentleman, sir.
Yeah, well, one more thing I'd say. I'm not trying to stop her from continuing, but I just want to say one thing before I do get cut off is the previous caller made a reference to Cayman's constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cayman doesn't have a constitution in the true sense of the word. What we did was we gave our opinion via a referendum of what we think the British government should do with their order for the Cayman Islands.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a major difference between a constitution order and the constitution. The constitution order comes from the colonial power, the UK, and that they have made in their cabinet office and laid in the House of Commons, and that has been extended to us. The difference between that and our constitution is when we've decided that we're going to create the one that we want and replace the one that they have for us with what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two completely different concepts. And one is our choosing, and the order, a constitution would be our choosing, and the constitution order is their choosing for us. And so I just don't want that to be confused, because it's important to keep that reality in mind, even as much as the caller talks about us in our colonial status. I agree with him. We're a colony. The UK doesn't like to call it that. They like to give the impression that the Cayman Islands is autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, it's not that we have autonomy. What we have is responsibility. And so the reason why the governor can overrule things in the Cayman Islands is because he possesses the authority to do so. He has only allowed us to have responsibility for doing certain things, but the day that he says, well, let me take this over, you get to see where the responsibility ends and authority when we talk about governance and we think about how things are done in other countries and how they're done here, it's important to understand that no, we don't have the kind of freedom that some are trying to mislead us to believe that we have. It's factually incorrect. And they're working really hard to deceive us because they want to be the ones to direct what happens to the Cayman Islands with the authority that they have. And so we need to be very, very, very clear. We don't have autonomy. When they tell us that we do, I hear the governors talking about it. I hear even politicians talking about it. They're factually wrong. We have responsibility, not authority. So, if you want to comment on anything along that line as well, I'd appreciate it.
If I may then ask, just for clarity, do you think then that those statements by the politicians, is it out of a lack of understanding and knowledge on their part, or is it maybe they just want to position it in such a way to create the perception that they have a greater semblance of authority, accountability, responsibility, authority than exists?
I'm absolutely certain that the Premier understands the distinction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain that others do as well.
Mm.
I can't swear for all.
Right.
The point I want to make is that regardless of the real reason why they're saying it, I just want it to be known that it's incorrect.
Okay. So before I ask Ms. Coutinho to weigh in, the notion, again, and I think words are powerful. They have strong connotation.
And they have meaning.
And they have meaning in application and the like. So, because we're talking about civics education, political education, words like calling, Parliament, the Chief Justice, the Cabinet, the Premier, words that may to the international community or to the uninformed, could those words convey to them this connotation that you are an independent nation, and so therefore is that part and parcel of maybe that deliberate attempt to deceive and to misguide and to mislead?
I think on the part of the British, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But the thing is this, is that when the international community is thinking about doing stuff in the Cayman Islands, they recognize that we fall under the UK. But if the governor gets up and says, "Oh, Cayman has significant autonomy," nobody's going to argue with him because they want to be invited to his cocktail parties. and what I'm saying is that to say that is to, whether he's doing it intentionally or what exactly is his reason. I'm saying that it's factually wrong. Now, I believe the UK is intentionally trying to deceive us because they want us to be removed from the UN list of non-self-governing territories without their nuclear powers removed from the Constitution order. And so if they can get us removed under this situation, we would be similar to how Puerto Rico is, in that Puerto Rico is delisted, but they're still very much under the very control of the U.S. Without having any say in how they're actually governed.
Right. Hey, listen, I appreciate that sentiment and respectfully. Let's just pause quickly, take that break, and maybe not put too much weight and trouble on Ms. Susan's shoulders just yet. When we come back, let's continue with this, civics and political education, Ms. Coutinho.
Let's
do that. All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vant Motors has lots of great reasons why you should choose a Toyota Corolla Hybrid or CHR Hybrid for your new ride. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven, so you don't ever have to worry about plugging them in. Both are super quiet as well as economical and fun to drive. So stop by Vant Motors to check out a new, fuel-efficient, eco-friendly Toyota Corolla Hybrid for only $26,900 or a sporty CHR Hybrid starting from $34,150 while stock lasts. Go Toyota. Go hybrid. Go to Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
This is an important public service announcement. In accordance with the standards in public life law, all candidates seeking election for public office must submit a declaration of interests before filing nomination papers on Monday, 1st March 2021. The standards in public life Schedule 1 declaration form can be found on the Commission's website, www.standardsinpubliclifecommission.ky. Again, all electoral candidates must submit their declaration of interest before nomination day. To facilitate a smooth and expedient verification process, the Commission is requesting submission by 10 a.m. Friday, 26 February 2021. For more information, visit www.standardsinpubliclifecommission.ky or call the Commission office at 244-3685.
This message is brought to you by the Commission for Standards in Public Life and the Elections Office.
Red Sky at Night. Terrific live music, actors, dancers, poets, and children's activities. Over 100 artists and artisans selling art, crafts, jewelry, and accessories, and delicious local food. Red Sky at Night at the Harkwill Cultural Center, Saturday, February 27th. 2 sessions, 2 until 6 p.m. and 7 until 11 p.m. Don't miss out. Tickets on sale now for both sessions at eventpro.ky, a CNCF production.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Celebrate Cayman invites you to the dedication and groundbreaking ceremony for Seafarers Park on Thursday, the 25th of February from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Come and join us and get a look at the vision and plans for the new waterfront national landmark.
Seafarers Park will serve as a site for us all to come together as a community in the heart of our capital.
Join in the celebrations at the dedication and groundbreaking ceremony for Seafarers Park at the former Tower Building site on Thursday, the 25th of February from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We hope to see you there.
We sailed on the sloop John B, my grandfather and me.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Ms. Katina Anglin for her company. You know, civics and political education as part of the Christian Association for Civics and Political Education.
Bang.
Bang. Bang. Oh, they're sweeter than dark chocolate, man. Let's go. We do have a caller, Ms. Katina. Welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Don't know. I just called to find out what time your program is finishing today.
I think Ms. Susan says we can go to 3.
After what time your worship, what time your program finishing today?
I could be here till the last moment, that's for sure. Till they kick me out. and that can't happen because it's the People Radio Station. You know that, right? You know that, right? This radio station. I hear people talking about the government radio station. It's not a government radio station. Radio Cayman is a radio station for the people, by the people, owned by the people. I'm the people that they're talking about. I don't know about you, but I know I'm the people that they're talking about. I'm gonna be here until we wrap up the show this afternoon. Dwayne?
The thing about it's the time. I was on the clock. What time?
We ends at 2:30.
Okay, thank you, darling. That's all I want to know.
All right.
Okay.
I know what you're asking, but I just want you to get it up.
Everybody know what I'm
God's will see you tomorrow.
You're not easy, no?
Ay. Why, the wisdom in you, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
But Dwayne,
take care, Mom. Take care.
I want to go back to the last caller, the caller previous to this one, Mr. Warren. He is a fine example of why citizens need to be politically aware.
Yeah.
Right? Now, he didn't spend his life in college and at university doing political science studies and public administration management, and lives in this he doesn't work at the Glass House. He's not a member of the governor's office or anything of the sort. But he's a person that spends a lot of time researching and analyzing and seeking knowledge, and I want to encourage other Caymanians to ask questions and demand answers. There's no sense in asking the question and then the person who's in power, who's in charge, then says, but I'm not sure about that, And then you say, oh, okay, all right, and walk away. Don't waste your time to ask a question without demanding the answer, because all you did was waste the breath, waste your time. Ask a question, demand the answer. If you don't know, ask him another one. How quickly can you get this answer from me? Right? And don't stop until you get that answer. There's even a law that allows us to ask questions of officials, right? It's not just a democratic principle, but you have also the Freedom of Information law, that if you called up and the person who answers the phone won't give you the information, you submit a Freedom of Information request, and the information, as per law, because some of it can be redacted and so on, must be provided to you. Ask questions and demand answers. But I want to share a quote from Christians in Politics about why politics is important to us, and the amount of knowledge that Mr. Warren shared with us just now about what our Constitution really is, or rather is not, is indicative of political education. And I applaud him and the others in the country who spend their time seeking these answers and holding others accountable. And this quote comes from christianinpolitics.org.uk, and it says, "Politics matters. It determines our life from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. It affects our homes, our jobs, our welfare, and our families. While we understand that politics matters, sometimes we can't see how what happens in an old building in Westminster, or for us in Cayman, I digress, over there across the street, what we used to call the Legislative Assembly, which is now the House of Parliament. What happens in an old building affects us, or how we can affect it. And the we that they are referring to is the electorate, right? The people in the country. And earlier we spoke about the Christian voters' responsibility, that, we have power that's given to us from God. And that's not just in a political arena, but that is in all that we do and everywhere that we go, to lovingly rebuke all forms of evil, not some forms, but all forms of evil, and to do so with due care and attention, as they would say, but to exalt what is good and do our very best to make life good for all human beings. including those in our homes, those in our communities, those here in the country. And if we can get things good enough here in this country, we can then be able to assist with other hardships in other countries, because there are countries that are much, much worse off than what we are here in Cayman. So then, if we have a responsibility as Christians and as citizens in the country to make sure that we play our political role, then after we go into the polling booth, or when we go into the polling booth, are we going into the polling booth with real expectations of our candidates, right? And I think one of the things where we continue to trip ourselves up is that we go into the polling booth expecting that the candidate is going to fix our problems, right? And we go into the polling booth prepared to put our X down by whichever candidate's name, but we never think any further than that X. We don't say, how am I going to convey to that candidate in the future what is going on in my household or in my community or in my district? How am I going to hold him or her accountable? What role am I to play as a citizen in building my own community? And I think that as individuals, we need to look at what our role in guiding the country really is and ask ourselves, do I play my role? Do I play it as well as I could and as best as I should? We're always arguing about, politicians don't listen to us because we're not rich, and they just pay attention to this group of people or that group of people. Well, special interest groups they demand meetings, they hold meetings with politicians, they negotiate what it is that their interests are. And because the individual or collectively a community, that there are no community groups set up within vast majority of our electoral constituencies, then there is nothing for the politician to weigh against the special interest groups' demands or desires, because the electorate has not presented anything to them, has not shared any input, has not made any demands, has not researched and brought forward and said, I found this online, it's a great social program, we don't have one in my neighborhood, can I get it in my neighborhood? As a matter of fact, I know 3 people in my neighborhood that can play these various roles. Maybe we shouldn't just put it in my neighborhood. Maybe we need to make it a district thing. And all of you, whether it's 6 of you or 4 of you or 1 of you or however many of you as elected representatives, make sure that the whole entire district can profit from this program, right? We have a role to play. And if we keep running around demanding that politicians fix our problems, we're really setting ourselves up for failure, because those who are recognizing what it is that they need and how they can achieve it are meeting with the politicians and putting their plans forward. And they are achieving their goals while the general electorate is being left behind because we are absent from the scene.
Squeaker wheel gets the oil.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Ms. Katina, we do have the news break to take. We're going to join the callers after. The phone lines are open, but I appreciate the education on politics and civics, and the mantra that you set out is about education, information, about empowerment. All right, we'll pause, go to our news, we'll come back, we'll take the calls. You continue to educate us.
Yes.
For those that are listening, we invite you to be a part of our continuing discussion. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity.
Stuck on you.
Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
A quick notice from the Ministry of Education. Everyone is invited to join the ministry on Tuesday for the official renaming of Savannah Primary School in honor of education stalwart, the late Joanna Faith Clark. The event starts at 4:30 p.m. in the school's cafeteria. For more details, email ministryevents@gov.ky. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. An entire California school board has resigned after making disparaging remarks about families in an online meeting which they did not realize was being publicly live-streamed. They want to pick on us because they want their babysitters back, one member said about parents. Another implied that parents wanted their children out of the house so they could take drugs during the day. Parents, however, had been joining the public call as it progressed. Said board member Kim Bede when she was told several minutes into the discussion, "We have the meeting open to the public right now." The WebEx meeting immediately went into private status. And Hawaii has unveiled a revamped foldable smartphone, which it says has a much smaller internal gap when closed than that of its main rival Samsung. The Mate X2 marks a major redesign for the Chinese firm. When shut, the large display is now hidden inside the device rather than exposed over its exterior, as was the case with past generations. But its price, about £2,000, $2,800 is likely to limit demand. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
How can you take your business from good to great and thrive in the new normal? By finding the smartest, most powerful IT solutions to optimize your business operations. And now, Digicel Business Hub is making it simple for you. High-speed Wi-Fi, mobile and office phones, IT security, Microsoft Office with Teams, and much more. Everything your business needs to level up in the new normal. Get world-class IT for your business with Digicel Business Hub. Sign up today. Call us on 623-3444 or visit our website, digicelbusiness.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And in the studio, Ms. Katina Anglin, as we talk about civics and political education, brought to you by the Christian Association for Civics and Political Education. I mean, it took him like 5,000 takes. All right. As you take us through and as we become educated and empowered, informed and engaged, we do have a caller online. Ms. Katina?
Okay.
I use the headset to keep my hair in place. You probably just take it out of your eyes, but hey, the wind isn't blowing like earlier. And now let's go to the phones and hear what has to be shared. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Mr. Dwayne?
My good friend, how are you today?
All right. Hello, Miss Tina.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, how are you doing?
I am fine. It is good to hear from you today.
Make sure you heal up your boy there for me, please.
I will do. I believe he probably hear you right now.
I hope so, and tell him I know I didn't forget him.
Okay. Thank you.
Still, you see back to these politician days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something. Who really run the country?
Well, as the taxman was explaining to us earlier, right, is that we are a British overseas territory. And because we are not independent, we are not self-governed, that is why we actually have a governor who is appointed by the Queen. They get to decide who they're going to put in our country and sit in that chair. Ultimately, we're being run from the United Kingdom in the Cayman Islands, all across the world, down here as the Pearl of the Caribbean, jewel in the crown, down here in all the warm weather with the white sandy beach that's causing all of the controversy. And we get to choose the elected representatives who sit inside the House. And those elected representatives are supposed to act in the best interest of the people, having received the input from the people to know how the people are being affected by certain circumstances that are existent or non-existent. ultimately, it is the way that we, the people, the electorate in the country, interact with the politicians and make our demands known, stand our ground, and so on, that decisions are ultimately made. The United Kingdom is still a democratic entity. It really does not want to come across to the public, the global public, the international community, as being an iron fist. It wants to come across as though that it is a thoughtful and caring mother. Whether that's true or not, we're not going to discuss that at this point. We just want to talk about the imagery that it wants to put across. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they want us to live without becoming a financial burden to England. So they want us to make wise financial decisions, and they give us some leeway that we can make decisions for ourselves in our best interest. And I got to say, we've done a really, really good job at that. From past leadership until now, we have financial decisions that has kept us as one of the top 10 financial centers. However, it is the people in the country, when they stand up and when they speak up, that change is ultimately brought or maintained. And as the people of the country, we have to be wary of what is going on and what is best for us, because some things just don't need to be changed. Change comes, it comes gradually. Sometimes it doesn't come at all, because some things are best maintained as they exist. I know that was a very long question, a very long answer to your question, but I hope you understand how it all comes together.
No, I understand, but you're missing out. You're missing out just one figure. I was hoping you were going to spill on, but...
Well, you go right ahead and you put it in.
Somebody down here, we're at $600 billion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're talking about the de facto government and the special interest groups and those who make demands according to the money in their pocket, and our politicians bend over backward and pass regulations.
You can see with a gated community, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's their own town, no?
Right.
So, what kind of government we dealing with here then?
Okay, so what if the people in the country, right, invoke their freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and they reached out to their politicians and they said, listen, I haven't heard from you all year. Or I haven't heard from you for the last 6 months. There hasn't been a public meeting held at the local town hall. You have not come around and polled anybody in my community, and I can tell you, because I'm very active in my community, I haven't seen any of you. So we need to have a meeting. We need to have it by next week, because I have a couple of things I want to talk to you about. And so does the rest of your constituency, who I have publicly invited to attend. Now, you may run around with $600 billion, right? But you don't have the power to vote. I have the power to vote.
But you can buy a vote.
Well, I think if we step away from the perception that it doesn't make any sense to vote,
when you're desperate to, right, any amount of money could buy your vote. Not true?
This is true. But then this is why it is that we need to become wiser as the electorate, right? Do we want to always be dependent on somebody walking up to us and giving us $50 and telling us who to put an X beside the name of? Your fridge is going to rust one day. The glass in the windows are going to fall out. NAU is eventually going to disqualify you as a recipient of funding. What do you want as a citizen of this country? Do you want to live with your palm up? Or do you want to live with the top of your hand up? Because one position is a receiver and one position is that of a giver. And as the people in this country, we need to start placing some value on who we are as the electorate and step away from the free gifts. Step away listen, when somebody giving you $500 for your vote and you're thinking that, oh boy, I got $500 for my vote, you're thinking like a fool. Because your vote is worth your children's future. And we need to look at who our political candidates are. We need to ask them questions, and we need to go into that polling booth and put an X down beside the name of the person who we think is the best person to run the community, the constituency that we are in, our district, and therefore our country. And for too long, we as the electorate have been knocking on politicians' doors to get $25 towards our electricity bill instead of demanding an education and employment system that allowed us to go out there and, one, become employable, two, to become trained for elevation, and three, to earn an income that we could pay our bills, maintain our families, enjoy our money, set aside our savings for our own retirement, separate and apart from our pension fund, and live a quality of life in this country. Instead, we find it easier to sign up at NAU and knock on politicians' doors and complain about electricity bills. Now, you're right when you say that politicians have manipulated the populace for a long time. I'm not about to suggest that they haven't. But in all honesty, I want to believe that we are now a populace who are much more educated towards the wiles and the schemes of politicians than we were 10 years ago. And we need to step away from the open envelope approach.
I can see you. I can understand that. But when you proclaiming Christian things, right? It should never be that I go take money to cure you or I go take money to help you. You understand? Money have no basis in a Christian life.
Well,
have no. If you really think, right, 1 out of 1 trillion stars and galaxies and all that life put here on this planet to make us pay for it, I don't think so, bro.
Well, unfortunately, the reality of the situation is, as Solomon himself did say, money answers all things.
That's them. That story is in the Bible. That's them. I talk about now.
Right.
People that learn better, that didn't get us know it.
Okay. But the truth of the matter is this, is that in order for me to be on the radio to talk with you today, this electricity bill for CUC needs to be paid, right? We have moved into a monetary financial structure for our existence. We no longer operate on a barter system. And unless we are willing to step away from the financial and technological environment in which we live and return back to the barter system, we're going to be strapped and tied to certain obligations, like paying CUC.
I gotta tell you one thing, Miss. I can switch all that, and we can be free electricity all night, all day.
If you have a plan, I would suggest that you get your idea registered with through the corporate law, so that you can have free electricity, or you can generate a power in a way for all day and all night, not have to pay for it.
But let me show you something. Let me just show you one last thing. I can submit anything I want, but as long as I got a record on me, ain't nothing coming.
This is your
got a record. You can't leave. You can't go nowhere. So thank you, Jesus, for giving me my 2 feet. Not only a palm up or a palm down, giving me my 2 feet to stand on.
This is your conviction record you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you know, it's very sad that so many of the youth of this country is robbed from fulfilling their potential, not because they have a police record, but because the police record is used discriminatorily against them, you know? And what it's doing is it's in itself creating a welfare system and reciprocation into criminal behavior, because everybody have to eat.
So, my friend, thanks for the sentiments. Anything else before we take the break?
No, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Blessings.
Thank you. Have a good evening. You hear?
Final short break. Ms. Coutinho, there's so much to cover. To our listeners, stay tuned.
That thing we've been saying for 64 years? Ignore it. Eat the KFC wings, drink the KFC gravy, fill up on fries. Just please forget the thing we normally suggest. You know, that thing you used to do with your tongue after finishing a delicious piece of our KFC chicken. We get it. It's not easy. There's a reason why it's been our slogan for over half a century. But the world's drastically changed of late, and as soon as we can embrace the change, the sooner we can all get back to doing what we do best. KFC. It's good.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
The Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands invites the public as it officially renames the Savannah Primary School in honor of education stalwart, the late Joanna Faith Clark. It's happening Tuesday, 23rd February at 4:30 p.m. in the school's cafeteria. If you need more information, you can email ministryevents@gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for being a part of our discussion. Thanks to Ms. Katina Anglin and the Christian Association for Civics and Political Education. I found from the outset that your willingness to include that word political in your NGO sort of filing, I think is a testament to the courage, but the importance of us being knowledgeable about that which affects us. I mean, you quote earlier from Christian politics in the UK, you know, how politics matters, how it affects us. We don't see it, you know. We're impacted by it, but we fail to appreciate how we may impact. But as I listen to you share, I know.
You know, take the young man, for example, just now, the very last caller. And if you listen, you can hear the plight of his life, right? And you can hear the despair. He is aware of what it is that's going on. He spoke about it, you know. In his own way, he brought to the forefront the barrier that he see towards our progress and his own barrier in his personal life towards his own individual progress, right? So how do you then encourage an individual, whether male or female, young or old, who's viewing things and experience things from that angle or from those angles, and say to them, let's go vote, and think that you could get anything else but a rebuttal or a rebuke? You know, the first thing that, if I was to go to him directly and say, come on, today's election day, let's go vote, it's, why should I vote? It doesn't make any sense for me to vote, right? And the realities of his life and the lives of so many other people, you know, is that they don't see a real good reason to go vote. Because what they're seeing is that, like I had mentioned before, that, you know, they only pay attention to the rich. I don't matter. Their hearts are not with us, right? So I'll be the first to admit that some of what we're experiencing is because of the way that I voted in the past, the way that my parents voted in the past, right? And one of the reasons why I am really keen on sharing civic and political education is because I want a better future for the generations that are young now and are yet to be born than what we know that exists now, right? Because we have ultimately created this demise that we have here because of the way that we have voted in the past. But it can be rectified, right? We need to pay attention to the news of what it is that's happening to Cayman and how it is that politicians are responding. And we need to start honing in on keywords and catchphrases in the political jargon. You know, that soup that they have, long sentences with big words. And, one of my favorite ones is this thing about sustainable development. And I say to people all the time, what exactly does sustainable development mean? And they say, I don't know, but that's what
we all repeat it, right?
Yeah. So don't, you got to start paying attention to all of this and start asking questions about it.
We have a call online, Ms. Katina, and one of our listeners shared something with me. She said, in Proverbs 22:7 says, the borrower is a slave to the lender.
Amen.
Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am. Afternoon.
The chocolate man.
Ooh, the sweet taste of dark chocolate. Yes, ma'am.
A couple of days ago was chocolate day, but I've been sick, so I didn't get a call to tease you.
That's okay, man. That's okay. Well, thanks for taking the at least.
Yeah, and good afternoon to Miss England there. Is she running for politics this year?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am, I'm not.
Okay.
No, ma'am, I'm not. Despite apparently there was something on Cayman Mall Road that I was planning on running against Mr. Bush. I'm checking out to see where. I wasn't contacted before that was put on Cayman Mall Road, and I have every intention of proofing that. But
I didn't hear anything. I was listening to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that you said a mouthful just before this caller called on in regards to people setting themselves up for disappointment when they go to the polls and vote for whoever they want to vote for. And that is true. They do set themselves up for disappointment because they're thinking because then they put me in, I'm going to move mountains for them. Once that house is forming that government and I'm the backbencher, I can't get very much done. But I just want to say that it is true. We need to stop thinking that after we put these guys in that they're supposed to pay our mortgage or pay off our mortgage, pay our rent for us for 4 years, buy our cars and so forth. But I don't think that is what politics and the government's all about. But you can talk about that when I hang up. I would like to really know what a politician supposed to do for the people once they get in. I need you to answer that question if you can for me. And you are right. We need to stop setting ourselves up for disappointment, thinking that who we vote for, they're going to move mountains for us here in the Cayman Islands. It is such a thing. That's not going to work. That's not what a politician is supposed to be doing. I don't think. They're supposed to be here protecting us. Here if we are desperate in need, keep our island safe, give us good roads to drive, keep down the crime, and I could go on until tomorrow with what I think. But I want you to correct me, tell me that all I just said is wrong, and tell me what a politician is supposed to do for their people once we vote them into the House. Thank you and have a great one.
All right, thank you too.
Thank you very much. I don't think I can correct you and prove that you're wrong. I can support what you did say. Politicians are not there to pay our mortgages. Politicians are there to create systems by which we can qualify for mortgages and maintain our mortgages. As a matter of fact, it would be really awesome if we could eliminate as much as possible the mortgage system by creating a system that allowed for us to purchase and to build our own homes from the benefits of our employment or our entrepreneurial skills. I don't think that we need to continue to move along as a society with the thought that in order for me to build a house or to own a house, I have to get a mortgage. I think that we need to start looking at how much is it going to cost me to build this house and how am I going to build this house. I'm not knocking the need for people when people are in need to get a mortgage. What I'm saying is that if we are, as BBC called, the £1 trillion island, and we have a population of some 30,000 Caymanians, then why is it that we as Caymanians are heavily dependent on the banking system when salaries in this country are reported to be some $70,000 per year? Now that $70,000 per year, Cayman Islands dollars, is not in the pockets of the typical Caymanian employee. The typical Caymanian employee is fighting to feed their family with some help from NAU every once in a while and to pay their electricity bill and make sure that their rent is paid, because our economic system is not providing true means for prosperity for Caymanians. The one thing I listening careful for is, and I can just put all politicians on guard, you come up with that thing about the trickle-down effect, we can have a very long conversation about it, because the trickle-down effect doesn't work for the people on the bottom. It dries up much, much further up, somewhere up around the top. You're lucky if the vapors make it down for the scent for the people to be able to smell. The politician is very much in charge of creating systems for us to be able to live in a healthy, financially healthy, socially healthy, physically healthy environment.
Mm-hmm.
Not responsible for your bank loans. Yes, every person at some point has hit on some hard spot in your life. There's a system that's supposed to be fully functional. We call it NAU. NAU, unfortunately, is I can use their words, overburden on the resource department. Needs serious help, needs great expansion. But what it needs is a reduction in dependence on NAU simply by government truthfully achieving an economic system through which Caymanians can prosper. And for many years, I mean, all we've heard about is job opportunities for Caymanians. Every election, every 4 years it comes up. Job opportunities for Caymanians. This year we need to ask politicians straight up, what's the job opportunity you talking about? What is this? What does your plan for employment entail? And how do you envision achieving this plan? Because telling me that you're going to create more job opportunities for Caymanians, I don't need to hear that song again. Honestly speaking, I need to hear what the plans are, right?
So this educational initiative, I mean, you talked earlier to the caller about money and the bills that have to be paid, but your organization have paid for this time or a portion of it in order to be able to help to educate, inform, and engage the public. So, what is it, a joke? Money doesn't buy happiness, just allows you to choose your misery. You got to pay for it, right?
You got to pay for it.
Thanks for paying for the slot.
and we doubled our airtime as well, and we've extended our airtime. So as, it does take money to come on here. And so they're all of the persons who appreciate hearing the information. And one of the things that people don't know about the Christian Association for Civics and Political Education is that it also has the ability to raise funds for legal defenses for issues affecting Christians. So if you would be so kind and considerate as to contribute to the Christian Association for Civics, and you can do this by making a direct deposit to Bankerfield. Bankerfield.
I like that.
Bankerfield to Bank of Butterfield. And the beneficiary account is 136-175-498-0015. And I'll say this again.
But if they just go to the bank and say the Christian Association for Civics, would that work? Okay.
That can work, but you got to go to Bank of Butterfield to do that.
Okay.
Not Bankerfield, to Bank of Butterfield.
Okay.
You can also contact us on CaymanChristianCivics@gmail.com or 922-6644. I want to also encourage you to visit our website at www.christian.ky, and you can also sign up to become a member of the Christian Association for Civics from our website. Our membership list is not published, so it's not like people can click onto the list and see who's a member of the association.
Can anybody join? Civil servants, best bears, can anybody join?
As long as they are here in the Cayman Islands.
Okay, so it's just an NGO, Rachel NGO?
It's a...
not NGO, NPO.
NPO.
Sorry,
yes.
G, the N, the P, the R, the X, and the Y. Sometimes it's all one the same. Okay, an NPO.
Okay. I just want to put one other thing out there. Thank you very much, Suso. When there are going to be the largest voting bloc is a Christian vote. Politicians know this. So when I'm here talking about your Christian representative as an electorate, a member of the electorate, as an elector, You need to be wise about the people who are coming before you and saying, I'm a Christian. You need to do some so you go to your Christian brethren, you go to your Christian elders and you say, listen, this political candidate, can we talk about this political candidate a little bit? You can also contact us at the Christian Association for Civics. We're also going to be putting up some information on the website about the views and values of the political candidates. We will reach out to the candidates.
Okay. We got some callers, listeners who are asking you to repeat the account number again. You shared it with me, I can, but I'll ask you to do that.
Yes.
So that number, the account number, and then how to join and to contact, the phone number. Give us the details again.
Okay. So to become a member, just visit the website, www.christian.ky, and click on the tab to sign up. Our contact details are Cayman Christian Civics at gmail.com. The telephone number is 922-6644. And the account is at Butterfield Bank. The number is 136-175-498-0015. So I want to thank
And then the telephone number is
922-6644. 22 from 6 to 6 is 44. If you ever need a chant to have this stick in mind, 22 from 6 to 6 is 44. 22 from 6 to 6 is 44. So, Davina, I want to thank you very much for having me on the show again today.
Always a pleasure.
All right, Susu, I want to thank you. You are so awesome. Cayman Islands, listen, God loves you. He sent his son to die for each and every one of us. And I want to just encourage anyone who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ to go sit down and have a little conversation with him. I assure you this, you are not that deep down in the hole that his arm can't reach. Your voice is not that faint that his ear can't hear. And you are not that wretched that his love can't redeem. I'm telling you, because I am redeemed through the love of Jesus Christ, my wonderful Lord and Savior, and he loves you too. He loves you. God bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you, lift up his countenance unto you and give you his peace. God bless you, Cayman Islands.
Amen. Katina, you remind me, as a sinner, I have a prospect of salvation. And even though the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak, you can still find joy of life. So thank you, Mom.
And the beautiful part about it is that Christ came to save. He didn't come for the righteous. He came for the sinner. And there's no condemnation in Christ. He's not going to say, no, you're too far gone. I can't take you on. I don't like that shirt that you're wearing today. He's like,
I pressed it early too.
So.
But thank you, Mom. Thank you.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure.
Thank
you so much.
So we're back on in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? When you book the slots and pay for them, however long ago, I look back at it and I thought, divine. Thank you much, Mom. And to our listeners, thank you too for the encouragement. Thank you for the counsel. Thank you for the prayers, and thank you for your friendship. Thank you. Just thank you. And as I partake of the dark chocolate, I certainly embrace it and enjoy it. So it's the endorphins, it's the, all the good things that they're in. Tomorrow, Miss Susan, we're going to have some more fun, right? God's willing, we'll be a part of it. Who knows what the night will bring, but maybe the afternoon and the sunset will renew the spirit. And as I look with a joyful expectation of what lies ahead, I'm imbued with a sense of wanting to be an eternal giver so that the world is a better place. Amen. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio K.